What is up, YouTube? Troken here. Welcome back to the channel. And yes, we are back. Sorry about missing card reveal season. There were renovations being done and I couldn't film, but here we are. All the cards have been released, so we can get straight into building some decks. The first of which we're going to be covering one of the structure decks that is going to be coming out, which surprisingly is probably the best structure deck that you can buy, mainly because some of the cards in it are just really strong. Like the new purple VEX is just, pretty tasty, I'm not going to lie. So let's get straight into the video. A lot to talk about. I'm not going to go over some of the older set cards into detail. If you guys want to, hit up the Discord, message me, and then I can gladly, for those that are beginning to get into the game, kind of like do like a more depth, like personal, like one-to-one, like explanation of the deck. But for those veteran players out there, we're just going to scroll through the old cards and kind of like highlight the new cards a little bit. The first of which will be the new legend, VEX Gloomist. So we have purple and green, and when you or an ally hold here, so that for in 2v2s would be pretty cool. Exhaust me to draw one. Now there are talks about bans coming, and one of the talks is that Draven will be errated to either have the same ability, in the sense that it's going to be exhausted every time it went to combat, so you can only draw one per turn, because when you compare this to like Draven, it's just like, oh, but Draven just has more card draw. But we're waiting on the ban lists. But honestly, like, just because of the new set and new decks, I just wanted to go over VEX. This is probably going to be my main. It is still a really strong, like, legend ability. I love card draw. Card draw is king, and card advantage usually leads to victory. Very simple, very straightforward. It is actually like quite a beginner-friendly deck as well, as the game plan is going to be just holding, and then holding. A little tricks here and there that we have. Going into the rune split, we are running 7 calm and 5 chaos runes. The battlefields, one of which is older, Grove of the God-Willowed. When you hold here, draw one. So potentially we can draw 2 per turn. A new battlefield in Rockfall Path. Units can't be played here. So there's a new mechanic called Ambush in Unleashed, and it's going to be quite a menace, as they can just run in with like a small unit and just play at reaction speed units now. And this kind of helps us mitigate that, so that they can't be playing units there. Now, it does hurt us a little bit, in the sense we can't be fortifying our position onto this battlefield. So when we play this battlefield against our opponent, if they're running like some ambush cards, which have particularly like higher value, then we kind of want to move into the other battlefield and then use some mobility tricks to kind of like force our way into this battlefield, because this like punishes like those decks like Dead Blooms, can't, or anything with ambush. So pretty important battlefield, I think, that we're gonna have to see a lot of in this next set, as if you're not running ambush, you kind of just have to run this just to kind of like punish your opponent for playing that type of archetype. And lastly, we have our game 1 battlefield. This battlefield is actually quite ridiculous. Amateur Recital. When you hold here, you may move a unit at a battlefield to its base. So if the unit does have deflect, you do have to pay for it because it is targeting. However, if we get a foothold on this, we can force our opponent just to be moving back into their base often, which is quite ridiculous. So it stops them from holding. I mean, they can potentially just move in to conquer, but if we're building up our base with some units, right, moving in, then we have a really good position where we can double score in one turn with some mobility tricks, like targeting our own units with fight or flight, and or the tide turner. Just like a really strong battlefield that just like stops our opponent from kind of like building up on the other side of the base, so we can just force one unit at a time out and then kind of like move in and conquer with our own units. So really strong battlefield, in my opinion. Another really strong card is the new purple VEX. Now, one thing to notice is that the structure decks generally always have like one of the epics in the deck, so you're guaranteed pretty much to get one of these in the structure deck. So honestly, like what I'm going to do, you just grab 3 structure decks from VEX, smash them together, and you have like a playset of a lot of important cards from the new set. This card is insane. 4 for 4, nice clean cost, and you know how much I love clean costs like that. Has deflect, which is super relevant nowadays. And when an opponent plays a unit while I'm at a battlefield, stun it. It's just an automatic free stun when your opponent plays things. Now this goes to base. It also stops accelerated units because they can't move it this turn. So not only does it stun, but they also can't move that stunned unit. So if they're just dumping their hand with some units to their base, no matter what they do, they can't move it. They can't reveal a tide turner at the other battlefield to choose it, to move it. You know, so many different things can happen. Also, when you play tide turner or your opponent plays tide turner to their base, right? The one unit that targets it will move, but that tide turner has to stay at base. So really strong ability. The fact that it punishes, sprites that are going to be a thing with Lilia, any type of accelerate units or cards that just enter ready due to their specific ability. Really cool card. And you'll see in the gameplay, just does work just because, your opponent just slows them down so much, and the fact that we're guaranteed one of these in the structure deck is pretty cool. Awesome, love this card. We're running 2 of. I wanted to fit 3, honestly, and honestly, like if you're not playing Vex or any other type of purple deck, like it's really good in the main deck as well. Like if you're running purple, this is just a really strong card, and if not in the sideboard, if you have no space for it, but like if you're running any other type of purple decks and you see that your opponent runs a lot of accelerate, or you're going against Lilia, you sideboard this card in. Super strong card, really good. There's like no downsides to it in my opinion. Next, we are running 3 stack decks. I'm not going to go into what it does, as we're already 3 sets in. 2 charms, 3 defies. We're running 2 of another new card, Existential Dread. So what we want to do, when we'll be holding down a battlefield and just get some holding points, drawing some cards. There are a couple new stun cards. I didn't run Rune Prison in this, as I just didn't feel like it made sense, just because, we want to be holding, right? So there's specific stun cards that say only an attacking unit, and that's what I put more of in the deck. But Existential Dread is an action card, or action speed card, for 1 and 1 purple power. Has repeat for 2, so if you do the repeat cost, it is 3 energy and 1 power. And it reads, stun an attacking enemy unit. If it's already stunned, return it to its owner's hand instead. So basically you can double stun a unit and then it just goes back to the base. Or you can just split it up and just stun 2 different units and then force them, not back to the base, to their hand. Or you can double stun units just like Thwonk does, right? And then, they have to move back to base if you don't have enough might to kill those particular units. Also, the fact that, it is just like on its face value at action speed for 1 and 1 power, a stun. Pretty good, right? So if you're playing things and you only have 1 rune up, you don't have your shadow out there with you onto the battlefield, you play this card to stun a unit. If you can't kill it, it just gets pushed back. You get the whole point, draw a new card, and figure out the game from there. So yeah, new stun card, pretty cool. Love it. Just fits well in the deck. Probably going to be in the structure deck, I feel like, as it is one of the uncommons of the new set. Furthermore, I like running blocks because, no one expects it, and just to mitigate some tank into something is really cool. We are running 3 disciplines, 3 fighter flights, pretty important. We'll have to see with the ban list. Like a lot of people are saying there's no way that this card can get banned. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But as for right now, we are putting 3 of because it's just a very strong, powerful card. Also helps with mobility. When we've kind of like stacked a couple units onto a battlefield, we can reveal the fighter flight if it's hidden or play it from hand. Move one of our ready units back to base and then move into the other battlefield after triggering Amateur Recital. Moving that unit back to base for our opponent. You can kind of like hold and then conquer that turn, which is pretty cool. Another new card we are running is the Mutated Mauser. Now, I'm like, this version is like I'm going to call it like 0.3, right? I've went through 3 iterations of it, and this is the best one that I feel comfortable so far. Not quite done yet, maybe some tweaking here and there. And basically what I want to do is just not do 1 video per legend for this set, but rather show an evolution of the deck as time goes on. So with your help, hit up the comments. What should I take out? What should I put in? But so far, I'm liking this card, right? So 2 for 1, has shield 2, so while defending goes up to 3 might, and has tank, right? So it really helps save your Vex. When it's defending with Vex, you have 7 might on board. You're stunning something, mitigates the damage to the mutated Mauser, so it will probably die if you can't pull off a stun. However, you are saving your Vex, which is very important, getting that whole point, getting that card draw. So far I like it. I'm pretty sure it's going to stay. Maybe Nami will replace it, maybe, but I'm not too sure. I'm not too sold on Nami quite yet, as it is not in this deck, but hit me up in the comments if you think it is worthy of it. Furthermore, 3 Thwonks. A card from Unleashed. We all know what it does. Repeat, 2 for stun, 2 times. Pretty good, pretty much like a Existential Dread, but in green and no power cost, but without the effect of that the enemy unit goes back to hand. 2 tie turners I could fit in here. Helps with mobility. Like I said, you play to base. Your ready unit goes to base, and you can conquer on the other without after triggering Amateur Recital. Kind of like the purpose of that. Also hiding it and targeting a Vilemaw, which is a new creature, which is absolutely ridiculous. That unit is sick, dude. We'll go over that in a second. Treasure Hunter was just like a decision I decided. It's a decision I had to make because we need gold generation to help pay for like a lot of the hidden cards, right? And I feel like there's nothing wrong with like just moving into a battlefield. Your second turn, playing out your Vex. And then from your held battlefield to base, just go back and forth, right? Just like generate that gold back and forth. If you get the hold and you can conquer for the win, then by all means. But Treasure Hunter is really important because we really want to have a natural ramp and not spending too much power hiding some of the cards like Fight or Flight or blocks or our new card in back off. So yeah, Treasure Hunter, great 2-drop, generates gold. Doesn't have really much might at 1, but still pretty high value card. We saw it do work in Draven when Spirit Forge was out. Furthermore, some protection for our high value units like Vex or Vilemaw. Not so fast. Reaction speed, counter. It's what green likes to do. Furthermore, a new card in back off. So this card's really cool and really interesting. So for 3 energy, or you can hide it, right? It is a action speed card, but when it's hidden, obviously it's a reaction speed card. Stun a unit, but if you play it from hand, you can draw 1. So we can draw more if it's at our hand. However, you're in those situations where you're like, okay, I need to drop some things on board, play some units, play some spells like stack decks or whatever. And then maybe you've exceeded your open runes from 3 down to 1 or 2. Then you could just burn a power to hide it, or burn one of the golds that we have from Treasure Hunter, just as a fundamental stun. And it doesn't have to be attacking. You can use it. Okay, so if your opponent is attacking, you can play it from hidden, obviously, or at action speed from your hand. So it doesn't dictate that it has to be attacking. You can also move into a battlefield with it, playing it from your hand, and stunning a unit and trying to take in that battlefield through that course. So it's a Vex card. It's a stun card. That is what we do. We want to stun as many things as possible. Yes, deflect is the thing. However, you'll see in the gameplay, it's pretty good. The stun mechanic was introduced with Leona in Origins, and it just wasn't really there. And I think finally we got some good cards and a good kind of archetype to play around with it, where it's super beneficial to kind of trick our opponents not to taking our battlefields. Furthermore, we have a new signature unit in Shadow. Pretty cool card. 3 for 3. Sure, why not? If you play me to a battlefield, I enter ready. So that means that's really important because its action speed ability is 1 and 1 power. Tap, stun enemy unit attacking here. So, if you're holding onto a battlefield with your Vex, right, which is something that happens often, honestly, they just pair well with one another. Also, I think the artwork is actually supposed to be next to each other. I believe something like that. It could be, but maybe the alt art. But anyway, yeah, it's a great card because enters ready. Therefore, that if you're holding to a battlefield, you play it to the battlefield. It is ready, so you can automatically on your opponent's turn at action speed for 1-on-1 power, stun an enemy unit. It makes your opponent think twice about moving in there. It's like, oh well, there's no point moving in there because it's just going to get stunned. And if they have any pumps, like in the discipline, then they might take out my unit. So pretty useful. It may get replaced. I really like it though. Like it's pretty useful, honestly. And the fact that a lot of people are back and forth about it, like, oh, it's not too great, but it's still a 3 might unit. You can still move it around. And the fact that it just always have a stun ready on its body is, in my opinion, really good. Like we were running 2 of those. Next, we have a new unit in the green version of VEX, VEX Mocking. 5 energy, 1 power for 5 might, has shield and tank. And it's a really cool card that you can just play to your base. As when you stun an enemy unit at a battlefield, you may move me to that battlefield. So if you're holding both battlefields, right, and you have some stuns ready, you can stun that particular unit and then move VEX into that battlefield to help reinforce that battlefield. I tried it out so far. It works pretty well. I like the card. It's the fact that you can get a surprise defender or a surprise attacker while after you play this card is pretty important, pretty cool, pretty strong. I don't really see anything bad about this card, because it really has a strong ability. And the one thing that we're using like Tide Turner and Fight or Flight for is for mobility, and this card just has like natural mobility built into it. Yes, of course we do have to stun things, but that is absolutely fine, because you're moving in if for defend, right, it goes up to 6 might. Even with attacking into a battlefield and you stun a unit with something smaller, it becomes still a 5 might unit that you can just kind of like swing that showdown into your favor. And finally, we have probably one of the best cards, in my opinion, printed in Unleashed, Vilemall. My God, is this card absolutely ridiculous. So 8 energy, 2 power. It's pretty expensive, but for 8 might and its ability is totally worth it. It has ambush, so if you're moving into a battlefield with like a low cost unit or a cheap unit or a weaker unit like our Mauser, right? You can ambush the Vilemall in. You pay its cost. It becomes a reaction speed unit. And enemy units here with less might than me don't deal combat damage. When I hold here, draw 1. So if you're playing against Draven and they have 3 Rasas, 3 battering rams, you move in with your mutated Mauser, you play Vilemall, they don't deal damage, and you just kind of, pick them off one at a time. Yes, you do have to move back, right? Obviously, because you don't have enough might to actually kill the other units. However, you can slowly just pick them off one at a time, and it's just ridiculous. Like, it's really good. They just don't deal damage. It's just absolutely insane. And also, when I hold draw 1, so if you're holding onto Grove of the God Willow, you draw 1 for Willow, you draw 1 for your Legend ability, and you draw 1 for Vilemall. Super strong card. This card is pretty much the main part of the deck. It does work. It is so strong. Anything that's playing green is going to be playing Vilemall. I feel like this card is probably going to be like a 50 to 70 euro card. And this is kind of like our end game card that kind of like takes the game home, right? Super strong. Play this card as much as possible. 3 is too much, so I put 2 in just because, sometimes it's just like, you don't need more than 2, honestly, in this deck. 3 was just way too much in the other versions, so I cut 1, and then here we are at 2 of the Vilemall. Moving to the sideboard real quickly, Gear Destruction and Factory Recall, 2 of those. New counter, we were running 2 Abandons. Reaction speed, counter spell, return it to its owner's hand instead of putting it in their trash, and you can predict, which is basically vision for spells. Yeah, so this card's like really important. Play it against like certain spell decks that are like playing bigger spells, like against Victor. If they want to pop off with the Imperial Decree, you can abandon it. It goes back to hand. Of course, you can have to play around it after that. However, they can't really play it 2 times in one turn. So, purple has a new counter. I like this card a lot. I think it's better than Hard Bargain. And the predict is really useful because we're drawing so much from our holds that if we are top decking something we don't need, just put it on the bottom and recycle. One rebuke because rebuke is good. Sometimes you're just in that situation where, like, sometimes there are units like like a Volley Bear when you're going against an Aurora deck. The Shield 13 is just way too much might. We can't really deal with that. So, sideboarding in a rebuke is super useful. Also, I might put up to 2 and then shrink down 1 abandon. I think that's the better choice. And we are running another spell, a new counter spell, I'm sorry. Flurry of Feathers. A lot of people think this card is bad, but I think this card is amazing. Bad Tree Man pointed out to me, he's like, yeah, this card's like ridiculously good. Like 4 energy, 2 power, it's basically a wind wall. But also, if they've sided out their big spells, you still have some value into it, right? So when we're going against certain spell decks or, certain decks that just like pop off with their signature abilities, counterspell is just something like a counterspell, like Wind Wall or this, is just super, super important. Sometimes your opponent will read that, if you're running green, but this has an upside as you can just play 4 one-bird unit tokens with deflect, and you can just move in, conquer some things, charm their units left and right or back to base, and then conquer with a bird just in case. So it basically has value if they're kind of anticipating that sideboard to hard counters. So pretty cool card. It is a new spell from Unleashed, and I really like it. And lastly, we have Leona Zealot. I wanted to fit this card in the deck. I initially played it in the first version. However, it kind of just like sat in my hand a lot. It may be replaced in the sideboard. It was in the main deck. It made it to the sideboard now. Sometimes we're going to be going against like either Aurora decks or just things with just like way too much might, even more so than Vile Maw, right? And the fact that you can -8 everything, it's not choosing, it blanket affects those certain cards. So like things like Rune Runner, it's not choosing it, right? So that will get affected by it. Same thing with the new card Baron Nashor. It's not choosing it. It just happens, kind of like Thousand-Tailed Watcher, right? So I think in those certain specific niche instances, this card can shine. However, the first couple iterations of it kind of just sat in my hand. As I'm holding, I just generally have more points my opponent, especially with like the new battlefield, right? So they're not holding this much, and they don't really get to 5. And when they do get to 5, I'm kind of like close to winning in like 1 or 2 turns. And at that point, I kind of just take the game from there. Like this card has always been like a win from behind type of play, right? Because, they're sitting at 5 or 6 if Aspirant's Climb is one of their battlefields, then yes, it does work. So in those instances where they're playing like a lot of big things, I think this is a very useful sideboard card. Love it. I loved Leona in the first set. Just didn't quite get there with it because it just didn't have enough support. But still, it is finding its way into the new VEX deck. And that is it, guys. That is the deck list. If you have any questions, hit up the comments. Stick around for the gameplay. And again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry about the long wait. I haven't done any videos in quite some time. Again, there were some renovations to be done. I couldn't film. But I am excited to go through the decks. Excited to develop decks with you guys. Let me know in the comments what I should take out, what should I put in, and what do you guys think? And is this the best structured deck that Riftbound has so far? So without further ado, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Enjoy the gameplay. Peace. What is going on, guys? And here we are with some gameplay, a mirror match nonetheless. We have Amateur Recital as our battlefield, the Power Nexus for our opponent, also Vex. Turn 1, not much to do in hand. We didn't get our Mauser and or our Treasure Hunter, so here we are playing a stack deck, and there's a Treasure Hunter. Sad life, we weren't going second. We could have developed that, and then we just kind of passed the turn from there.
The reason I wanted to highlight the mirror matchup was the thing that I was talking about in the deck list video is like playing a fight or flight on our own units for a little bit of mobility is super beneficial, especially if you're playing a whole deck, right? Generally, you just either fortify, hold on to some spells, and the majority of your game is going to be happening in showdowns, right? And if we're winning those showdowns, if we're stunning our opponent's units, pushing them back, then targeting our own units with Tide Turner and or fight or flights for a little bit of mobility helps us get there, helps us score a point, specifically with Amateur Recital, as we can push back our opponent at the other battlefield to base. Sad life is that our opponent developed his VEX onto Amateur Recital. So how do we get back that battlefield while only having a treasure hunter? So first thing is first, we're going to develop our gold, get a point. There's no point in trying to double down on fight or flight quite yet. I kind of want to use that later. And then we're going to develop our Vex as well. Technically, it is a unit being played, and Vex is at the opponent's Vex, is at the battlefield. But he doesn't have to stun it if he doesn't want to, as the deflect trigger goes on the stack, and then the ability trigger happens, so they can choose yes or no. It would be pretty stupid to stun a unit being played at a battlefield, especially with deflect in his point. So he decided not to. Then the issue I was thinking about is like, do I charm something in here? But there's also nothing really that would be beneficial to that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna play a hidden fight or flight, and then kind of work from there. He could move back my treasure hunter if he wanted to, but that would just give me a gold. I asked him, actually, do you want to trigger anything? Do you want to move my Vex and waste waste a power? And he opted against it, as there's not really any benefit from that in his point. Unless he can kind of move around with a Rider Wind. I'm not sure what list he's playing, honestly. So it is fresh into Unleashed. It is only a couple days after all the cards got revealed. So who knows? This is honestly the best time for the game. Because there's so many lists out there and so many people trying things out. And we see the Nami, which is something that might add into the deck eventually. Had to read the card. It is pretty cool. It does have stuns, and when you stun things, you can buff things as well on your side. It fits well into the deck. I'm just not 100% sold on it quite yet. We'll see in the future. But generally, I think I'm gonna just hold off for it for a bit, and then maybe play test it some other time. But anyway, we were moving our treasure hunter back to base, developing a gold, and from here, I think what is really good, we also tap our legend to grab our extra card. I think I missed that next turn. No, last turn I did not, because I didn't hold, I just conquered. Now we're at 2 points. We got a block from that hold. As you can see, both our hands are pretty healthy, and our rune economy is pretty healthy right now as well. As we've been kind of you are utilizing the gold, or building up gold, I'm sorry, and not going too crazy with early game plays, as we just want to put a foothold onto our battlefield and get those holding points. So at this point, someone's going to have to pull the trigger, and I decided to pull the trigger first. Here I am using a charm to pull over that Vex, paying the defect cost. Goes through, no defies, no, not so fast. So that was pretty surprising. Here you are, plays back off. Luckily, I have the defy in my hand. That would have been pretty bad. I would have had to pay another power cost for the fight or flight. But defy is pretty good in this situation. So that happens, and then from here, I obviously want to buff my Vex with a discipline. He thought I just wanted to trade, but yeah, no, I don't want to trade. I just want to kill the Vex, and killing that Vex is super important, as then kind of have more free range to play things without them being stunned. So from the discipline, we pull a shadow, which is really great to fortify a battlefield with Vex on it. Super good. And then here with the 6 might, exactly what I was talking about, we just use the spell to buff our, unit, and you might as well have some ability. So we play our fight or flight, targeting our Vex, So we can just go bit to base, ready, and then move in to the other battlefield with 6 might. Evelyn and Nami are sitting at 5, so unless he has something like an unguard to trade off, I don't think he does. Nope. Okay, so yeah, here we are. We win the battlefield. We got to hold one, we scored one, and we got the favorable battlefield. We got our battlefield back, which is pretty cool. 3 open, so we can play some things from hand. We can stun things. I didn't want to play out the shadow there, as I just wanted to have a little more flexibility just in case some shenanigans happened. Here you are is playing Munch, or is it Munch or something? It is basically, I think, a card that's going to be in the structure deck. It's at like 6 for 6. However, if you stun an enemy unit, it costs 2 less and enters ready. Pretty good. I thought about putting it in there, but I just don't think it's really that amazing. Like, it's pretty good, not amazing to make the cut. So here we are. I move into the Power Nexus, get a gold, score point, and then I'm gonna fortify the Amateur Recital with my Shadow, tapping 3. It does enter ready because I already have a unit at that battlefield, so its ability is like ready to go. At this point, I want to get to 6 as soon as possible, so I fortify the battlefields, one with a fighter flight and one with a I believe that was a block. Yeah, a block. Now the fighter flight, in this situation, I was like, do I want to do I want to lose the treasure hunter, or like push back the Poro? Or I'm sorry, do I want to push back my treasure hunter or push back the Poro? And I think in this instance, like, I just don't want him to pull any more cards, really, with the hold, as if he does move in there, right, I can just, like, with my holding on the battlefield, just push it back, so he's not going to be able to draw in that sense. And honestly, he was just going to move in with the Munch anyway, or the Munch, whatever it's called. So I decided to push back my treasure hunter instead, get that gold, and then kind of like lure him into the other battlefield, as I have multiple ways to kind of stun them. So here he is with the the Shadow, trying to fortify, trying to be a little safe too, kind of following the same game plan. However, I'm surprised he's not playing a little more spells. Not sure what he has in hand. But so far we haven't seen any counters, so any day now he could pull counters. And here he is dropping a lot of stuff. With the Draven, of all things, pulling in the VEX. Wasn't expecting the Draven, like I said before. A lot of crazy lists out there. Maybe this is something that's going to be good, maybe not. However, the Draven not being able to protect it with some things, like with some buff spells, I think is like a lot better than just trying to protect it with stun things, right? So he does successfully charm my Vex over. And then at this point, yeah, I don't think he wants to stun. So I kill the only thing I could with the Shadow. He needs to play the defect cost also for the charm, of course. Made sure that happened, and then he moves over. Luckily, I have 3/6 mana, and then next turn I'm going to be having 8, and you know what I'm doing with the Vile Maw. I'm going to be moving in the Treasure Hunter and moving in the Vile Maw. So we have Thonks, the Vile Maw, which we're going to play. We also draw another card from holding, and at this point, since I'm holding still Amateur Recital, I'm telling you guys, that battlefield is absolutely ridiculous. I push back the Munch, I think it is called. I forget the name of the card, honestly. So holding on to the battlefield, this battlefield will always be your game 1 battlefield. It is super, super good. I love it so much. It's so strong. So we push back the 6-point unit in Munch. Then moving in with the Treasure Hunter is probably the best play. However, I think you should always stack deck. Oh, no, we can't because we have 8 runes available. So that moves back, right? We move in with our Treasure Hunter, and then we kind of just play Vile Maw, honestly. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. As they are sitting at 6 might, yes, they have 1 open, but I don't think there's much that they could do about that, honestly. And I was actually in this moment contemplating, I was like, yeah, the 1 might could be the Existential Dread, that 1 stun. However, risk it for the biscuit. Why not? So here we are, pulling the trigger on the Vilemall, using that beneficial gold so we don't have to pay any power cost, and moving in with the Vilemall. So the Draven will not do any damage. The Lonely Poro would not do damage. And at that point, he just gives up, as I will get 2 points from that. And, him having the 1/6 might card, it's kind of like hard to double conquer for that point. So Vilemall takes the game, utilizing the gold from the Treasure Hunter, getting a foothold on Amateur Recital, which is our game 1 battlefield. Just goes to show how strong that one is. Drawing cards, holding, a very simple, straightforward game plan, very beginner friendly. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.